All right, can everybody hold up their shape so we can take a peek? I see a heart. I see a hexagon. I see a rectangle, a circle. We've got a bunch of different shapes. What if I wanted a square? Well, then I wasn't specific enough. So everyone in here that drew a shape accomplished what I had asked them to do. And if you're accountable for drawing a shape and the funding source that contracted with you asked for a shape and you drew a shape, job well done. We're getting away from that as a regional center, and that was the impetus for part of this training, was that historically we used to have IPP objectives that would say the consumer wants to attend a day program. Well, that's not very specific, and by virtue of showing up at day program and meeting attendance requirements, you've accomplished that goal. We're trying to get a little more specific in what we want to accomplish as a funding source to meet that philosophy of achieving a future where all individuals are valued members of their communities, that independent, normal, productive life. So our IPP objectives are getting a little more specific in terms of guiding you on what we want for outcomes. So if I were to get a little more specific and say, I'd like you to draw a square with 1-inch sides in the next 30 seconds, I've met that criteria of being, I'm trying to go backwards, specific, measurable, aligned, realistic, and timely. Can everyone draw a square real quick with 1-inch sides? Humor me. I'm going forward. That's down. How's our square looking? Does everyone have a square with 1-inch sides? Can at least a handful of you hold it up and show me? Thank you. All right, I'm seeing squares with 1-inch sides. This is great. I've got a whole room of potential providers who can meet my need. And who am I going to select if everyone in the room can meet that need? Well, then I'm going to have to refer to the provider selection process, which means the least costly vendor. And again, that's not the cheapest vendor, but that's the least costly, the most cost-effective, the one that can meet my specific need. And if my specific need is a square with 1-inch sides, and 2 people can accomplish it, 1 can do it for half the price, guess what? I'm going to do it for half the price. That's just smart use of tax dollars. Now, I'm going to take this analogy one step further. Again, willing suspension of disbelief. We're a system that only cares about making shapes. And I want each of you to draw the following shape on your piece of paper in the next 30 seconds. Drum roll. Can you draw that for me, please, in 30 seconds? Well,
yeah, you can.
Can I get a volunteer from the audience also quickly to come up here? Anyone? Run up here. Free stretch, free leg stretch. Some, never mind, I'm going to do it. I'm not cheating. I used the tools at my disposal, which were very specific and unique to draw what used to look like that picture. I went through it. I was going to take this one step further and say, what if I wanted this shape and this image to be red instead of... By the way, did anybody draw this freehand? Give or take, close? Pretty nice. Okay. I used a spiral graph to etch this out, which isn't something that everybody in this room has. And there will come times when providers have a special niche that's going to meet a specific need that we're going to want to look at and explore. If I wanted this to be red and all I have is a blue ink pen, but somebody else has a red pen that doesn't know how to draw this, I might go to 2 different providers. Maybe I sketch it out with my pen or pencil, and I give my piece of paper to somebody who has a red pencil, and I ask them to trace it. And I've got exactly what I want, but I had to go to 2 places to get it. And that's that creative thinking outside of the box. So I know it's a jump to equate individual growth and personal development to simply drawing shapes, but in 5 minutes I did my best to illustrate a point about how outcomes need to be specific and measurable, and we have a responsibility to justify how the money that our system is spending is being put to good use. Services and supports are a component of the IPP, and when we get to identifying that, we need to be specific, identifying the funding source, the specific providers who are expected to provide it. We need to exhaust those generic resources that Carol talked about, and we also need to demonstrate reasonable progress towards achieving those outcomes. It's not just something that we put in place and continue indefinitely because it feels good, but there needs to be demonstrated progress. The review cycle, initially when someone's brand new to the regional center, within 60 days they get their IPP. That's that entitlement to a service coordinator and a plan to help them meet their goals. It's revised and modified at least every 3 years, and also as needed. And we emphasize that in the planning team meeting by saying that it's not just at your birthday or when the regional center contacts you, but if there's ever a change in someone's life, they can pick up the phone and call their service coordinator and request to have an IPP meeting. Here's a copy of the forms that we use, and the piece I was asked to focus on and emphasize here for those of you who haven't seen this or might be unfamiliar to it, is that there is a box to check if someone is in disagreement with the services and supports that were proposed by their regional center service coordinator, the planning team. So the services that are implemented are those that are agreed to. That's that ever important agreement and person-centered approach to the service delivery system that we work in. If someone disagrees, it kicks off a whole new process in terms of how we resolve disagreements, and that's a training for a later date. The IPP also, at least the 588 form, lists the services and supports that were agreed to by the planning team so everyone can see and read for themselves what the planning team agreement was before signing it. The service coordinator ultimately takes this form back and types up a more narrative version that becomes the full IPP in conjunction with the signed consent. We included a couple of best practice templates that would reflect IPPs that meet the standard that we talked about in terms of a comprehensive assessment, objectives that we consider specific, measurable, aligned with the goal statement, realistic and timely, and then a list of standard services and supports when pursuing a particular service category. We included one for ILS services and one for day services as examples for you to look at.